Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi appeared on MSNBC to talk about President Biden's record on creating jobs. She said that while Biden has added millions of jobs, Trump has the worst job record of any president. Paul Spade checks that claim for PolitiFact.
How many jobs were created when Donald Trump was president? Well, former Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi says he not only lost jobs, but he has the worst record of any president. Take a look.
And Joe Biden is doing that, created 9 million jobs in his term in office. Donald Trump has the worst record of job loss of any president.
Is that right? Well, for modern presidents, yes. Since World War II, Donald Trump is the only president who actually lost jobs by the end of his term. He lost about 2.7 million, to be exact. Now, before World War II, FDR and Herbert Hoover likely had worse records than Trump, but the government didn't exactly keep reliable employment stats back then, so we don't really have what we need to make an apples-to-apples comparison here. We also can't overlook the fact that Trump dealt with a global pandemic, and you can see from the orange line there in the middle that before COVID hit, he was actually on track to create more jobs than Barack Obama and George W. Bush. So Trump's total numbers don't tell the full story, and that's why the Truth Meter rates Pelosi's claim half true.
All right, Nancy Pelosi was on MSNBC, and a funny viral moment happened. So she was talking to MSNBC's Katie Tur, and Pelosi said, Donald Trump has the worst record of job losses of any president. And then Katie Tur, just sort of in a low voice, just sort of slips in, there was a global pandemic. Pelosi, she freezes. Her eyes become saucers because she doesn't believe what's happening to her. Then she's on MSNBC, and she just got called out for the biggest lie the Democrats are telling lately, that Joe Biden was good for jobs, when really it was just coming off of a pandemic. That's all it was. And what did Pelosi do? She repeated it like you're not supposed to say that. Trump lost jobs and Biden gained them. And it looked like she was literally like her head was gonna explode. And then finally Pelosi attacked Katie Tur. She says, if you want to be an apologist for Donald Trump, that may be your role, but it ain't mine. An apologist. All she did was add the context that you were coming out of a pandemic. Now, isn't that context a little bit important, a little bit relevant? Like it would be the news, like it would be Katie Tur's entire point. And then it gets worse. By the way, here's the part of the story. If you saw this story, this is the part you didn't see. Then Katie Tur says, after being called an apologist for Donald Trump, she said something like, well, that nobody would ever call me that. In other words, Katie Tur's defense was that she is anti-Trump on the news. So not only did Nancy Pelosi completely reveal that she's expecting them to basically just agree with whatever she says, but then Katie Tur basically confesses that she doesn't plan to be fair because nobody would call her pro-Trump. The entire Democrat machine is just falling apart, and it's glorious.
Oh, that's weak stuff from Pelosi. You get this MSNBC left-wing hack, and she just pushes back in the mildest way. Pelosi says, Trump has the worst record on jobs of any president. And Trump has actually one of the best records on jobs. But in the final year of his presidency, the global authorities and the Democrats, mostly in America, demanded that we voluntarily shut down the economy. That's not, oh no, Bear Stearns is collapsing. That is a conscious decision by the government to tell people you don't have a job anymore and you won't for the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. That's not job loss. That's just a shutting down of the whole system, mostly pushed by Democrats. So this interviewer, because she has any self-respect at all, any integrity, she goes, well, hold on, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Pelosi, there was a global pandemic. That wasn't his record on jobs. And Pelosi just glitches out. She's so shocked that anyone would push back on her really absurd claim. So well, if you want to be an apologist for Trump, that's fine. First, she just repeats the same talking point that she'd come up with. She goes, well, if you just want to be a pro-Trump network, and the interviewer laughs. She says, I promise you we're not a pro-Trump. I'm trying to help you, Pelosi. Okay, we are a Democrat propaganda arm, Pelosi, but you got to give me something to work with. We can't just go out and tell people, actually, the cost of goods and services is much lower than when Biden left office. Because people know that's a lie. Actually, there are no illegal aliens pouring across the border. No, people know that's a lie. We have eyes, okay? There are no wars going on overseas that threaten to pull the United States in a regional or global conflict. No, we know there are. So you're not going to defend Joe Biden by just lying. I don't think. Not about basic facts and policies and circumstances that people are living through every day. The MSNBC woman is on Pelosi's side, but she's saying, lady, help me help you. And Pelosi gets angry about it because she's got nothing. What are they supposed to say? What is the Democrat pitch in 2024? What's the pitch? We know what the chief pitch is. Trump is evil. Trump is evil. And he might be the president again. And he's evil and a criminal and evil. Okay. What else you got? You want to chop your genitals off? We'll let you do that. Okay, that's not really. You want to murder your baby? We're in favor of that. It's not so uplifting. Anything else? Did I mention Trump is evil? Okay. Good luck. That's real desperate. So you're seeing, and this is always a telltale sign of the political reality. When the libs are turning on the lib media, when the libs are turning on their own propagandists out of frustration, that is a sign that they don't have anything to propagandize.
Former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, 84 years old, appeared on NBC, which, as we all know, is a wellness spa for liberals. Listen to this. Roll it.
But there are those who have real legitimate concerns about immigration, globalization, innovation, and what does that mean for their job and their family's future? And we have to address those concerns. And Joe Biden is doing that, created 9 million jobs in his term in office. Donald Trump has the worst record of job loss of any president. So we just have to make sure people know.
That was a global pandemic.
He had the worst record of any president. We've had other concerns in our country. If you want to be an apologist for Donald Trump, that may be your role, but it ain't mine. And he has the worst.
Anybody can accuse me of that.
Apologies, just corrected the record. So look, when you hear stuff like that, and here are the facts, in case Nancy Pelosi wants to jot them down, which of course she doesn't. So when COVID hit under Trump, unemployment was 4.4%. A pretty strong number. Okay. Remember, Trump was elected because Barack Obama's economy was shaky when Obama left office. So 4.4 was a pretty good number. When Trump left office, unemployment was down to 6.3% from a whopping was over 20 in COVID because everything shut down. And then when COVID kind of ebbed a little bit, companies were slow to take people back. As you know, everybody knows this. So 6.3 was a pretty good number compared to the rest of the world. Plus, didn't care anything about that. She knows she could say anything on MSNBC, and she was caught by surprise, as you saw the expression in her face, by Ms. Tur, who ordinarily wouldn't do that. Now, the reason that Ms. Tur did it was because, very quietly, NBC executives, after the debacle of Rona McDaniel, where the company took a mammoth hit, NBC News is at the lowest ebb ever since it's been on the air. Very quietly, they said to MSNBC, look, we know you're a bunch of left-wing loons, and loons watch you, and we make money from the lunacy. We know that. But you got to dial it back a little. You can't be just insane, okay? And that's what Tur got that memo. So that's what she said. So now Tur can point to that, say, look, I'm not in whatever they say. That's why it happened. But Pelosi was like, whoa, wait, this is MSNBC. I'm never challenged here. I can say whatever I want to say. So Pelosi is a propagandist, period. There's no credibility. Anybody who listens to her is listening because they like what she has to say. Pelosi on October 18th, 2022, basically said that Biden is doing a spectacular job. Well, at that point, inflation for necessities was at 30%. At that point, the border was open, still is. It's like you look at it and go, that's a spectacular job. But it doesn't really matter in that world. Okay? So they'll say anything and they get away with it, but they didn't get away with it this time. So when you are analyzing the presidential race, you've got to take the media out of it. And that's hard to do. It's never really been done. Americans depend on the media to get information about the race. But the information that you're getting is false more often than it's not false. And that's why I'm here. And that's the only reason I'm here, trust me. Because I will not do that, ever.
Anyway, here's a new report. I'm going to test your bias. The RNC reports, RNC Research Account on X reports, that the official jobs number from the last 2 months has been revised downward. Wow, by 111,000. So, surprise, right? The jobs report looked really good. And then, just like you knew, it got revised down quite a bit. Quite a bit. That's a big number. Now, here's a test of your knowledge of the news. True or false? Here's a true or false test. True or false? In the election year, when Biden is in charge, and therefore the government is sort of pro-Biden, one assumes, that they are going to lie about the jobs numbers consistently while he's in office, and then there'll be like a little correction later that they hope you don't notice. True or false? The news consistently says that the jobs are good, and then quietly correct it later where you don't notice. True or false? I'll read your answers. True, true, true. True, 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 true. You've all seen it. You've seen it with your own eyes, so therefore it's true. Yep. It's not true. Do you know how I know it's not true? Because in my ongoing conversation with Michael Ian Black, who represents, let's say, almost the polar opposite of my political views, I mentioned that to him. I said, conservatives see this, but you probably don't, that those job numbers that look good, they always, maybe not 100% of the time, but pretty much you could depend, usually they're going to get revised down, and then you won't notice the revision. And he said, well, that's not true. And I said, come on. It's the most obviously true thing in the news. How do you not know that? It's like almost every month, it seems. They say the numbers were good, and then a month later, they're not so good. And he said, but I remember them being revised in both directions, not just one way. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they don't. And I said to myself, well, that can't be true because I only see them revised down. And so I checked. Turns out that they're revised up sometimes and down sometimes, and that a Republican entity will tell me when they've been revised down, and they won't tell me when they've been revised up. So Michael Ian Black for the win. His version of the news was accurate. My version of the news was fucking bullshit. 100% win, which I told him, by the way. 100%. His news was accurate. Mine was bullshit. And it wasn't wrong in terms of, the accuracy. It was just what I saw. So I don't see anybody posting, well, those numbers are way better than we thought. But today I saw the RNC research number telling me, and here's what Zero Hedge said, something like, here it goes again, or something like that. So Zero Hedge presented it as here it is again. Here's what they always do, but they don't. They don't always do that. What is true is that when they do it, you see it, because Republicans are more likely to send that around social media. So if that tricked you the way it tricked me, do your own research. Just check. You'll see.
So I'm going to talk about the jobs report today. And once again, when we got the jobs report, this was the December report, so it's the final one for 2023. And just like almost every jobs report we've had in 2023, the number came out higher than what the consensus estimate was. The estimate was 154,000, and we got 216,000. And that is the headline that the Biden administration wants. And in fact, all of the media, which is, very left wing, trying to push the false narrative of the Biden boom and the success of Bidenomics, everybody is talking about, oh, we created more jobs. We have a booming economy thanks to the great policies of Joe Biden. We keep creating all these jobs. We created more jobs than anybody believed because the economy is so much better than we thought. And it's just another great jobs report where we beat the estimate. Well, this is just a game. They've been playing this game all year because 10 of the last 11 jobs reports have been revised down significantly in subsequent months. I mean, that is not a coincidence. If something happens 10 out of 11 times, it's not random chance, right? Toss a coin. See if you can get 10 out of 11 tails or 10 out of 11 heads. I mean, you're never going to do it. Don't even try, right? You're wasting your time. So this is by design. And once again, that's exactly what happened. Not only did they revise down November, they revised down October on this report. And if you look at the beat, right, the 216,000 versus um, the, um, the number that they were estimating, it was like 45,000 or something like that. I beat, but the downward revisions subtracted 71,000 jobs that were previously reported as having been created, and these were in prior months where it was like, hey, we beat the number. And everybody celebrated that the number was better than expected. And now we find out that they weren't because they revised them down. But the downward revisions exceeded the December beat. So we actually created fewer jobs than expected if you count the jobs that we thought we created, but we lost from the prior months. About the economy, it's all about all these great jobs, the strength of the job market. And again, these are lousy jobs. Nobody is talking about what's happening. Look at the household survey, which comes out the same time as this establishment survey. 1.5 million full-time jobs were lost in December. During the month of this great jobs report, we lost 1.5 million full-time jobs. So I'm sure the people who lost those good jobs are not thinking that this is a great economy, right? That's why Biden's approval rating is so low. All these people losing these good jobs, right? They're not exactly thrilled with Bidenomics. Now, what type of jobs were created? Part-time jobs. 762,000 part-time jobs were created in December. Obviously, though, there's a big gap. We destroyed a lot more full-time jobs than we created part-time jobs. So the number of people employed shrank in December by 683,000. That's the biggest reduction in the workforce since the COVID shutdowns. So it's the weakest jobs report, really, that we've had since we were shutting down the economy. But the media doesn't say that. No, they report this ridiculous number, this 200 whatever thousand that was a beat. Yes, we created a bunch of part-time jobs. He did kind of claim credit for reducing the deficit. How? The debt's going crazy. How do you claim credit for reducing something that went way up while you were president? Oh, well, could it have gone up more had we, stayed on the trajectory of COVID? Yes, but COVID's over. When he looks at COVID, he wants to, cherry pick the data. So he's going to say, I cut the deficit only because it was much bigger when the economy was shut down. I mean, of course it was going to go down. It couldn't have stayed at that level. But if you look at the deficits post-COVID versus where they were pre-COVID, they're way up. So Biden has massively increased the pre-COVID deficits. But look at how he counts jobs. He wants to say that he's created all these jobs. He didn't create anything. These jobs were the jobs that were put on hold. At the same time, Biden says Trump lost all these jobs. Like more jobs were lost by Trump than any other president. Those are the same jobs that he claims he created. They weren't lost. They were put on hold. And then when he comes into office, they're taken off hold. But he's distorting all this COVID stuff to try to make him look good. So he claims creating jobs they didn't create, and he claims he cut deficits they didn't cut. Right. So everything is being hidden behind this facade of COVID.
So apparently, the only way you can talk about the economy if you're running for president is you literally just make up shit. They both do it. But here's where the president should call him out. Biden will definitely say he created more jobs and that Trump lost jobs. Here's what you say. Joe Biden, I don't think you should talk about the economy if you can't figure out how to handle the fact that we were in a pandemic. If you're comparing a pandemic to our normal economy, you're just lying to the public, or you don't understand anything about how economics works. Whoever had been president after the pandemic was going to have major job growth unless the whole country disappeared, and it didn't. So when you stand up here and lie and say you created jobs, I think the country is smart enough to know that jobs were, of course, going to be created after you no longer shut down the whole fucking country, you fucking fascist. Well, probably without the F words.
We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
There you go. Yeah, he should have brought up the actual numbers about the kinds of jobs they're bragging about, which are all part-time jobs. We've lost 1.5 million full-time jobs just in the last year. That would have been a nice stat to throw out there, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? He didn't need to do much.
No,
Biden did all the work for him last night because he was so terrible. Just so bad.
So the jobs that were created, these were all part-time jobs, and all of them went to immigrants. Native-born Americans continue to lose jobs, full-time jobs. We haven't created any jobs for native-born Americans. So all the jobs that we're creating over the last year or so, maybe more, maybe two, are going to foreign-born workers. Now, some of them are here legally on work visas, but a lot of these workers are here illegally. And it makes sense. We have all these illegals coming across the border, and we have all these jobs. Well, because a lot of them are working. That's why we have so many jobs, is because we have so many illegals crossing the border that are getting jobs. Now, of course, that's better than them not working at all, right? I'd rather have somebody come here and work than be on welfare. But these things are going hand in hand, right? We have so many people coming through our non-existent borders. It makes sense that they're taking these jobs. But that's also why Biden is so unpopular, because in theory, at least, the illegals can't vote, and they're not supposed to be in the polls of likely voters. So one of the reasons that the voters are so unhappy with the Biden economy is because they're not the ones that got jobs, or the only jobs they have are the 2 or 3 part-time jobs they wish they didn't have. And the new jobs, the low-paying jobs that are being created for these immigrants who are not supposedly being captured by the polls. And you see, given the option of work and leisure, most people prefer leisure, right? It's like, hey, it's a Sunday. What do you want to do, right? Do you want to relax? Do you want to play around the golf? Do you want to go to the beach? Nah, I don't feel like that. I'm gonna go work at Walmart, right? I'm gonna go ring up a cash register. I'm gonna go wash dishes at the Howard Johnsons. Yeah, no, nobody does those jobs because that's how they want to spend their weekend or their night. No, no, no. It's, God damn it, I got to work this crappy job because I need the money, because my full-time crappy job doesn't pay the bills anymore. Because at least a few years ago, that full-time crappy job I had at least paid me enough to cover my rent, my groceries, and I had enough time to have fun on the weekends. But now I have to get a second or third job. And Biden wants to say, hey, look, I created all those jobs. Fantastic. Yeah, right. Screw you, Biden. That's what the voters are saying who have these jobs. Thank you, but no thank you. And I'm not voting for you. That's what's going on. That maybe we have so many jobs being created is because we have so many people illegally coming across the border and taking these jobs. Right? So that's part of the secret to the success of Bidenomics, is that all these illegals are coming in and getting jobs. Now, of course, I'm not upset that illegals are coming here and working. I don't like the ones that come here and don't work, the ones that go on welfare or commit crimes. If you come here and work an honest day, well, that's fine. You're contributing to the economy because you're contributing your labor. You're doing work that Americans won't do, which is unfortunate that they won't do it. Maybe the government has just given them a better deal, and so they don't do the job. But again, that shows you where these jobs are. This is not a strong economy. We're creating lots of low-paying jobs that most Americans don't even want. I mean, they're losing the full-time jobs. The people who are losing their jobs are native-born Americans, right? That's why you're seeing this huge collapse in the number of American workers who have jobs, because the job losses are heavily concentrated in full-time jobs. And those are the jobs that were held by Americans. But again, that also helps explain the low popularity or high unpopularity of Biden, because when they're polling voters, they're polling legal Americans, because the illegals can't vote. I mean, at least legally. I mean, maybe they still find a way to vote for the Democrats, but I don't know if they show up in these polls, because supposedly they're polling registered voters, and you can't really register to vote if you're not a legal American. And so if it's the legal Americans, the registered voters who have lost all these full-time jobs, that's why Biden is so unpopular. Or another reason he's so unpopular. You've got all these job losses and you've got high inflation. And, even when I see these Democrats on television, they're asked to kind of explain, why Biden is so unpopular when the economy is so great, because they talk about how great the economy is. And then when they're finished talking up the economy, they'll be asked, well, but why is Biden not getting any credit? They'll say, well, because food is so much more expensive than it used to be, and other prices have gone up. Well, yes, that means the economy isn't good. A good economy makes goods more affordable, not less affordable. You can't talk about how great the economy is and then acknowledge that the cost of living has gone way up and that prices have gone up more than wages. That's not a good economy. In a good economy, wages go up more than other prices, right? That's like the definition. Or they acknowledge, well, real wages are falling. How can you talk about a strong labor market? Oh, we got this strong labor market when real wages are going down. That's a sign of a weak labor market. And again, a labor market where people are losing their full-time jobs can't possibly be a strong market. Where people are forced to hobble together multiple low-paying jobs to barely make ends meet, and they still don't earn enough, and they have to rely on debt and credit cards and other forms of consumer loans when they're drowning and their savings are depleted. How can you talk about a strong labor market or a strong economy? It's all a bunch of BS.